thing. I'm going to run through this fairly quickly and give you the background on our project. When we look back on this, Larry heard me give this presentation or a presentation like this at the U.S. Mayor's Water Council in December, and afterwards we were talking about how green it was. And this project, when it was designed, the term green really wasn't used at all, and so you have to think back how far we've come. So why did we need a project? Well, we had 22 serious floods on the Napa River since 1862, and like any community that floods, we all look the same, don't we? So the community got together in 1965, and we authorized a Napa River Flood Project, and at that time, it was standard Corps of Engineer. We were going to deepen the channel with dredging. We were going to straighten the oxbow. We were going to put up levees and flood walls. And we went to our voters in 1976 and 1977, and they said, nope, we're not going to pay for that. So a little time went by. You've probably been through communities like this. We have another flood. And the flood in 1986 was quite devastating, and this is the middle of downtown. And after that, it was an attention getter. Homes were destroyed, mobile homes, damage. We hoped the worst was over. This is picking up the damage. And the community then gets another wake-up call, and they say, you know, let's think about it. Now, in the meantime, the resource agencies said, here's some things you got to think about. If you're going to do this, what we don't want you to do is to widen and deepen the river. For all the reasons that are listed on the slide. And we don't think you can leave those existing bridges, because if you leave those bridges, then you are going to have to deepen. And you've got some contaminants around the river, so if you're going to get in there and do something, you're going to have to deal with those. So with those kind of ideas in mind, a community coalition came together. And it was pretty amazing. And we knew the only way we could solve this if we all came together. And when you see the list of people that were involved, 40 agents, 400 people, Chamber of Commerce, Sierra Club, the whole gambit, resource agencies, people dealing with the environment, people dealing with recreation, people dealing with visitors, all came together and said, how can we solve this problem and work together? And I think the reason we've been so successful is because we did do it, we did come together. Ever since then, if there's ever a problem, we go, we can solve that. So what came out of this was before green was invented. We called it the Living River. And the idea was we were going to let the river take back the areas where it normally flowed, do some more terracing, and create some wetlands. This slide is a little deceiving because in 1998 we went to the voters and it passed by 308 votes. However, it was a 2/3 majority, so we had 68% of the community that came together and supported it. And this is important because when you're going out and doing a project like ours, which was actually tearing down buildings, taking down structures in order to terrace, you really need to be sure that your community is behind you and supportive of your plan. And indeed they were, and we went through all the environmental. So our design was we were going to maintain the natural slope. We were going to restore the connection of the river to the floodplain. We're going to let the river meander as much as possible. We're going to keep mudflats and shallows and sandbars. And most importantly, maintain a continuous fish and riparian corridor. This was the original design, as you can see on the end and the top side. We had a lot of reclaimed wetlands, so we were going to claim, I think we've reclaimed over 900 acres of reclaimed wetlands, took down the levees that were keeping the water out, and have created what we call a sponge. We're also going to do some terracing, and if you can see up on the top, and I'll give you more pictures on that, a wet-dry bypass. What caused us the most problem is our river oxbows on each other. So when it floods, it just went all over. And the key to us was creating this bypass that will take the water during flood events. Yeah, that's probably okay that I went fast, but. So here's the wetlands. And here was the area before we took down the levees. Here was it after. We didn't know if it would work. It's kind of gradual when you do that and take the land back. And here it is. And here's what's amazing. At one point I took these slides out and somebody said, no, put them back in, Jill. But to give you an idea about how much really environmental positive is coming from that is all the birds that are now found. You thought people just came to Napa for wine. Now they come to go birding. So all this is down in our wetlands. And then we needed, of course, to do some structures, and I mentioned earlier that we were going to need to replace some bridges, and indeed we replaced 13 bridges. You can imagine Napa's a town of 75,000. If you're in the engineering department, you probably do one bridge in a lifetime or your career. We've done 13. And the first one was the 3rd Street Bridge, and it really set the tone for the aesthetics for the community and really what they were looking for and looking forward to. We were talking earlier about there's a lot of change that came with this project and a lot of construction, and we needed to really be sure that we were informing the community as we were doing all this construction, and that's still a big piece of what we do today. If you look on this slide to the left, you'll see area that is going to be terraced, and indeed that had structures on it, and so we purchased those structures. And some people have asked me about going through eminent domain. We've probably gone through eminent domain 50 times. Somebody said, was that really difficult to go through those hearings? I said, actually not. We hired a very good appraiser who treated people very well. And when people voted for this project, we'd done all the environmental work, and they knew exactly what properties we were going to come back and take, so there was no surprise on it. If you look on the opposite side, those are where the flood walls will go, and you'll see that in a minute. So there was a great compromise between terracing and letting the river flow where it's naturally going to flow, and then protecting some parts of downtown so that we could indeed, be more commercial, take advantage of the opportunities for economics. So here's the Hat to First flood wall. We also did some design work, and if you're in a community, and I've got the booklet, but we went in and said, not only do we want the project, but we want it designed in a way that integrates with everything else that's going to happen in Napa. It was incredibly important as we worked with the Corps that they could see what we saw, we wanted our community to end up with. So this flood wall, which is actually one part of a flood wall, a little walkway, and then the other part of the flood wall could have been a 16-foot flood wall. But we said, no, our design is let's do 8 and do a pathway, and 8 and do a pathway. So it's created an amazing amenity. And here's some more as it's being built. And also on the other end, they needed to have a place downtown where the water could stay when it flooded that would capture it. So we created this little bowl down here that is terraced right down in the middle of downtown. 99 and 9/10 of the time, it's a lovely amphitheater in the middle of town where you can come down and dance and sing and hear our Shakespeare, but it's there to protect us during floods. Has it worked? We've had almost $1 billion in new investment since we started this project, so yes, economically, it's been a huge boost. When I started mayor, I was going to get designer sandbags because we had them in front of the businesses for so long. I figured we've got to, do something. So it's been a huge boost to getting people to invest.